Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic Podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fecich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
I'm Jake Miller from the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect those of others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hey guys, it's Sam. I'm back with another episode of the EduMagic Podcast, episode 21, More Advice for Student Teachers. Welcome back to another compilation episode where people chime in with their advice for student teachers. Let's get the party started. Let's start with Lisa Dabbs. You can find her at Teach with Soul on Twitter. She's an educator, an author, a speaker, and a blogger. Lisa does it all. She's a huge advocate for new teachers, and she's also the founder of New Teacher Chat, or NT Chat. I love what she has to share. Let's listen in.
The first thing I would recommend is that a student teacher should always be well planned, meaning that they should have their lesson plans prepared. They should have all their materials gathered and prepared. They should have their into, through, and beyond parts of their lesson prepared. They should have their follow-up for their lesson prepared, and they should have an assessment for that lesson immediately prepared, some way to gauge whether or not your lesson was successful. The second way I recommend that a student teacher could stand out is to begin to build relationships. In other words, build relationships with your master teacher, build relationships with the students, potentially the parents of the students, colleagues of your master teacher, and the folks in the main office, making sure that you don't just come and go in a stealth format because you're a student teacher and you might feel awkward, but rather make sure that you introduce yourself to the principal, shake his or her hand, let them know how excited you are to be on their campus, to be working with your master teacher, get to know the secretaries, and get to know the custodians. Make sure to build those relationships as a student teacher, and that piece will really make you stand out. One of the things that I've noticed when I was a principal that my student teachers didn't do was build relationships. They came and went in a very stealth manner, I say that again, and did not make an attempt to build a relationship with the school community. So I think that is the second most important thing that a student teacher can do to stand out. Thirdly, I would recommend that the student teacher have a very good classroom management, classroom community plan in place. Instead of waiting to talk to the master teacher to say, well, what would you want me to do? Have that in place already. Do the background work. Make sure you've looked at potential strategies that you want to use, potential applications, whether they're technology or others, or software that you would like to use. Make sure that you've let your master teacher know that you do have some ideas about building classroom community, classroom management, and that you have those strategies intact so that when those incidences arise, as they will as a student teacher, that you're well prepared to tackle those. And then that really sets you apart again, because you haven't had to rely solely on the master teacher to acquire those strategies, but rather you've brought some of them on your own already to the table. Lastly, as you complete your student teacher, make sure to have those handwritten thank you notes prepared. Thank you notes to the master teacher, to any colleagues of the master teacher that you interacted with, the principal, the secretary, custodial staff if they helped you out, potentially the nutrition staff there, the cafeteria staff if you had any interactions with them, whether it's 5 people or 10 or just 2. Have those handwritten thank you notes prepared, letting them know how grateful you were for the experience. particularly one for the principal, so that he or she knows how much you enjoyed being a part of the school community, even though it was a temporary situation. And then along those lines, if you've had a very successful interaction, make sure that you ask for a letter of recommendation. It might be that that school just isn't going to be one where you'll be able to apply to. But if you have a letter of recommendation from your master teacher, and even from the principal who you built the relationship with, invited them to come and see you teach, you could leave there with potentially 2 letters of recommendation to take you forward as you as a student teacher prepare to apply for a position. So those are just some of my suggestions that I offer. And then I just want to add, when you receive your feedback, when you receive your formal feedback, ask questions. Make sure that you feel confident that you know what it is that you did well, and the areas that you need to shore up are clear to you, so that you don't leave there confused or disenchanted or concerned about what might have transpired. So those would be my recommendations, and I wish all of the student teachers that you interact with, Sam, so much success as they embark on a student teaching assignment, particularly in the fall. Thank you so much for asking. I wish you all a great start to this new school year.
Wow. I don't know about you, but Lisa Dabbs always delivers, and I love her advice. Let's recap that a little bit. First, be well planned in your lessons, in your assessment, and creating a lesson plan that has all those materials and parts of that lesson plan fully completed. I would even suggest turn it in a week early if you can. Build relationships. Build relationships with not only your cooperating teacher, maybe you have a co-teacher situation, personal care assistant, other colleagues in the classroom and in the school. Build those relationships. Thirdly, have a classroom management strategy ready to go. And thirdly, have a classroom management strategy in place, ready to go, so you're not always asking your cooperating teacher what to do next. You have some ideas in your back pocket. Make sure you have time to meet with your cooperating teacher to be assessed and to give feedback and to receive feedback on a lesson or delivery or whatever you might be doing. So make sure you're making time to be assessed and reflective. Handwritten notes, friends, are so important. I know you guys love getting mail. I love getting personal mail with handwritten notes. So do that. Write a note to your cooperating teacher, to the colleagues that help support you. And to go back to that one piece about feedback, when you receive that feedback, ask questions so you fully understand what that feedback is all about, how to improve upon it, and what you're doing well and keep doing well in the class. Let's move on to our next guest on the show, which is Alyssa Frazier. Alyssa is the author of Daddy's Favorites, published by EduMatch Publishing. She's a Loyola instructor and a curriculum and instruction doc student. Alyssa and I met 2 years ago at the ISTE Spark conference, and her and I clicked because we both have a love for students with special needs and a love for EdTech and how they blend so beautifully together. So let's listen in and hear what Alyssa has to share to help student teachers stand out.
I would have them take notes on how they feel and their response to not only what's going on in the class, but their response to the students themselves and what the teacher is doing with the student. And I'm saying that because there are processes that we follow and methods and structures that we do, but we're still human. And you can have one intervention or one process that you enact, but if you are not sure how you feel about that, right? Noting that and then kind of unpacking where that discomfort is. Is the discomfort in that you don't fully understand it? Is the discomfort in that maybe you don't understand the student or the student's need? Is the discomfort in maybe needing some support in the way of, I don't know if I could see myself doing whatever that thing is? Is it connected to maybe some core values that you have? So just really being attuned to that and being aware of your response to what's going on in the community, I would say is one thing. I'm not suggesting I'm sharing that with the teacher, but noting that for yourself.
Friends, I love Alyssa's advice when she talks about being personally reflective and taking notes on how you feel in the classroom. Please make sure you tune into yourself for that reflection. And that's just something for you to know personally. Alyssa goes on to share another bonus tip for our special ed student teachers out there, and you can find that over at www.sfessich.com/21, and you'll find Alyssa's bonus tip. Up next, we have Erin Krieger from the Undercaffeinated podcast. Let's listen in on her advice for student teachers.
Hello, everyone. This is Erin Krieger from the Undercaffeinated podcast. And I just wanted to say one of the biggest ways that a student teacher can stand out during their time in a classroom is by building solid relationships with the students. As a classroom teacher, if I see you going out of your way to know the kids and to understand them, to be able to support them both emotionally and academically, that's going to make me believe in your heart and your kindness and the fact that you have the internal desire to be a teacher, to have a positive impact on our kids, regardless of what is happening outside the school. And that's the best way to reach them. So good luck to all the student teachers out there. I know that you are rocking this.
I love Erin's piece of advice at the end there. I know you're rocking it too, guys. You got this. But it's so important to build those relationships with your students. Go out of your way, get to know them beyond that student interest survey, and be there as an academic support and emotional support for those students. That's really going to help drive you a long way in student teaching. Let's listen in on our next guest, one of my former students, former teaching assistants, Hannah Turk. I just love working with Hannah. She's so much fun. Fun fact about Hannah, she came over to my house while she was a student for Halloween with a couple of other students. And she got to meet my parents, and she met my dad. And my dad says, Sammy, Hannah's like your mini-me. So I would love to introduce my mini-me, Hannah Turk. She's an amazing colleague, and let's listen in on her advice.
I feel like the biggest way that student teachers can stand out during their placement is to constantly be asking for feedback and advice from their co-op. After you teach a lesson, yes, you're supposed to debrief with your co-op, but ask in those casual moments too, what could I have done better? Or if you feel like there was a part you could have done better, make it clear that you are self-aware and that you realize when you've made a mistake. If you do make a mistake, own up to it and talk about or think about or reflect on how you would make it better. Yeah, just staying humble throughout your whole student teaching experience and viewing it not as what you have to give to a classroom, but what a classroom has to teach you. That would be my biggest advice to student teachers.
Now, friends, I know you got something out of that message. I love her advice to ask for feedback in those casual moments, whether it be on a lesson or an interaction. Always ask for feedback, own up to those mistakes, stay humble. And I love her last piece there. View it as what the classroom can teach you. Let's hop into our next guest, JC Maislik, who is an author extraordinaire, and she has some great advice for those student teachers out there. Let's listen in.
I feel like one of the best ways, although it may seem a little intimidating to our future teachers, I would say, get yourself on the map, right? I mean, reach out to your building principal or your, I'm an assistant superintendent, so reach out to somebody in central office, maybe a curriculum director or assistant super, somebody who, you want to share what you're doing in your classroom with those folks. So, if a student teacher reaches out to me and lets me know that they're doing something cool in the classroom, or maybe they even invite me to observe a lesson that they're doing, I feel like that is a really excellent way to stand out. In the long run, I'm going to remember, as the person sitting at the table making hiring decisions, I'm going to remember that student teacher who reached out to me to share a project that they were working on, or who tagged me on social media in something that they're doing with our students within the school district. So I would say student teachers can really set themselves apart by making those connections. So reaching out for face-to-face connections with building administrators, with district administrators, making those connections through your social media tools as well. Those are all things that would make a student teacher stand out to me. And then their ultimate goal, right, to get hired and get a job. So when I'm sitting down and looking through piles of resumes, it's going to stand out to me if it was a student teacher from my district or even a student teacher from another district who reached out to share some of the great things that they're doing for the students in their classrooms.
I don't know about you guys, but when JC speaks, I listen. I love her advice of reaching out to the building principal, reaching out to somebody in central office, inviting them into your classroom for observations. How powerful is that? I love this advice. Let's listen from John Martinez, a principal over in California, and he's going to share some great advice for you all.
Hello, EduMagic community. My name is John Martinez. I'm a principal in Southern California, and I would like to share what I believe is something that makes a student teacher stand out. And for me, that is the way they interact with a student. When I'm in a classroom or a playground and a student teacher is with a student, and I see that student teacher look into the eyes of that student, have a look of concern, be listening, have a tone of concern and caring for the child, selecting words that demonstrate that the student teacher is locked in on that student. When I see that kind of thing happening, then I know that the student is able to believe that the student teacher believes in him, is listening to him, sees him. And when I see that going on, boy, has that student teacher stood out for me. And I'm pretty sure that that is going to be a rock star teacher.
I love John Martinez. He's so fun and relatable. I think his advice related to interacting with students, be there with them, be in the moment, show your students that they are seen and cared for and believed in. All right, friends, we're going to move on to our next guest, John Craig. John and I met, I believe we met at a conference. I want to say it was P&C, but I could totally be wrong about that. And John is a fantastic educator, and he has 3 pieces of advice that he's going to share with you. Being prepared, remixing lessons, and, of course, be authentically you. Let's listen in and hear his advice.
It's okay to be nervous, right? Everyone's nervous. I just read a tweet online of a cooperating teacher that was having her first student teacher and how nervous she was to have a student teacher. So it's part of the job. Every year I was nervous on the first day. By the way, I'm a 15-year educator, spent a lot of time in the social studies classroom. The last couple of years I have been a high school instructional coach. So every first day is nerve-wracking. I always felt like I was unsure of myself. So it's okay to feel that way. So I think the ways to combat that is be prepared as possible. And to me, that means like being on time. And to me, is huge. When you have a chance to take over and do your own lessons, know your content. There's a lot of things you won't be able to control. I think a good cooperating teacher is going to know that this is a new experience for you, and it's not going to be well polished most likely. But you can do your best to know your content and show your cooperating teacher that you are putting in the effort to know your content. That will help you handle a lot of situations the more you know about what you're teaching. Even if you're only a couple days ahead of the kids, which is most likely going to happen, show your student teacher, your cooperating teacher, you're going to work your butt off to know that stuff. I would say the next thing is remix my lessons as the cooperating teacher. Show me something new. You're in one of the best programs I've seen around here, and you have a great mentor and your professor at school there with Dr. Fesich, who is doing some innovative stuff that is not being done in a lot of other places. So lean on that knowledge and that instruction, as I know you will, and just even when you get your first couple lessons, take a small piece and try to remix it with something new, whether it's a technology piece or a new strategy. I always love when student teachers would show me something I didn't know about. There's things I put into my practice. I think I didn't know what Plickers was, right? The cards that you hold up with the cell phone scanning deal. So my student teacher showed me that, or use that for a lesson, and then I bought my own Plickers cards and used them ever since. So remix something, especially if you're starting off early and are kind of getting lessons from your co-op. Put a little twist in it that's you. And that leads to the last point is be you. Don't try to be someone you're not. That co-op co-op you're watching in your first couple weeks has been through trials and tribulations, I'm sure. Some of the things that you see them do with ease and transition with grace took time to build. It doesn't just come easily for most people, so don't think that you have to be that person when you get the reins of the classroom. Don't try to use technology or things that you don't feel comfortable with yet. I mean, it's good to try things and risk take, but don't try to force a round peg in a square hole. Be who you are to the kids. Be who you are as your co-op. Don't be someone you're not, and you'll do fine. Again, it's okay to be nervous. You have a huge support network there in school. You have, if you're online, if you're a connected educator, there's a ton of people out there willing to help. I'm one of them. You can look me up at Coach John Craig, JONCRAIG. I'd love to help you out, but there's a ton of people out there I'm sure you're being introduced to. They're willing to help. And know that everyone's been through the experience. I used to call it teacher boot camp, which it really is. It is tough. But if you invest in it, if you're open to it, and if you put in the work, it's going to be a rewarding experience.
John shared lots of nuggets of information. So let's recap that. Be prepared. It's okay to be nervous, but one way to combat that nerve-wracking feeling is to be as prepared as possible. Be on time and know your stuff. Remix your lessons. It's okay to have lesson plans that your co-op hands you, but put your own spin on it. Put your own secret sauce on it and sprinkle your own pixie dust, and it will be magical for you because you've been authentically you. Please make sure you reach out to the people around you to support you, people online, your professional learning network, or how Sarah Thomas calls it, a professional learning family. Reach out to your professors. We're here to help you too. Invest and put in the work. This is all you. You got this. Next up, we're going to talk to Kristen Nan. Oh my gosh, you guys. Kristen Nan, every time I hear her speak or I'm just in her presence, I always smile. She always has a beautiful message to share with future teachers. So let's listen in.
It is such an exciting time to be in education. Bring your professional best to the classroom. No matter what your co-op is doing, dress professionally and always be there before them. It shows that you care. It's your first impression that you're giving to them. So you want to make it your very best. As uncomfortable as the faculty room can get, even there, find topics that are approachable and put that phone down, limit that phone time, engage, build those relationships. And honestly, no matter what the requirements are, if asked to do more, go after it. Oftentimes, you're given a checklist from your school to which you abide by, and the classroom teacher might be asking you to do one more bulletin board or one more lesson. Those are your moments. It's like an interview right there. It's showing how much you're willing to go above and beyond, because there's always going to be moments like that in the classroom. This is your time to shine. Be relentless and always remember that all learning, including your own, starts with relationships. Build them from day one. Be in the game, not on the sideline, because you are a main player in education. Never underestimate your impact.
Phew. I don't know about you guys, but I got the chills. I got all the feels from Kristen's talk. I loved hearing her last phrase there, be in the game and not on the sidelines. Never, ever underestimate your impact with students, with colleagues, in a school, in a classroom, in a district, and over the world, all over the world. Build your relationships from day one. Build relationships. That's a topic we've been hearing over and over again from our guests today. Build relationships with students, with faculty, with administration, with colleagues in the classroom. Build those relationships. You never, ever know where they can take you. Up next, friends, we have Kyle Anderson, co-host of the Beer EDU podcast. Now, if you haven't listened to my episode with Kyle, we talk all about virtual co-ops and EduMagic, and since it's a beer-related podcast, we talk a little bit about some pumpkin beers, but I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing his advice for student teachers, all about taking risks. Let's listen in.
Hello, my name is Kyle Anderson. I am a special education teacher in Northern Nevada. I have been teaching now, this is my 15th year. I taught social studies in high school for 11 years. I was a technology coach for a short time, as well as a middle school administrator for a short time. I also taught a year of PE, and now I teach special education. One of the things that I believe would make you stand out in your student teaching would be to take risks. Instead of just doing exactly what your mentor teacher does, present them with different things that you think are outside the box and give them a try. And it's one of those things where if you work with your mentor teacher to present them with different ideas, most likely they are going to want to work with you to be successful in that. And in the meantime, you're also going to be showing them something new that they could be using in their classroom when you are no longer working with them. So that's my advice. Just be a risk taker in your student teaching. It's really going to help you to stand out. And it's something that you'll be able to put on your resume and in your interview process when you start applying for jobs after your student teaching is done. You'll be able to mention those things. So good luck to you this semester and beyond, and have a great one.
I love that advice of taking risks. This is the only time where you'll be in a classroom with another certified teacher that has your back. So try something new. Step outside the box and try something new in that classroom. Up next, we have Rodney Turner, or who I like to call Techie Turner. He and I met at ISTE, I'm going to say 3-4 years ago maybe, and I was lost in the hallway. I was like, I don't know where to go, and Rodney came and saved the day. He has 3 pieces of advice that he's going to share with you. Be a person others look up to, follow your mentor teacher, and take over small groups of students. Let's listen in.
Hi, my name's Rodney Turner, and I work for a software company over in New Jersey. So here's some of my thoughts and ideas about how to stand out during your student-teacher time. First of all, I think it's very important not only to stand out during student teaching, but also as a teacher, is to come forward and to be a person that others will look up to because you are working hard to figure out all the different wonderfulness inside of education. You're in a classroom, you're working with students. Take the time to build a relationship with them. Talk to them. How are you doing? What's going on? You know, the simple things. But even more than that, take time to listen and to engage with them. You know a student loves soccer. You like soccer as well. Build that relationship and be sincere about it. It's the very most important thing. Second thing is to follow your mentor teacher around. Follow them around. See what they're doing. Listen to how they're interacting with other teachers. Take time to ask questions of your mentor teacher, because what that will do is it will cause them to reflect more on what they're doing and then be able to provide a much better foundation for you as you're coming into profession. Now, one of the things that I had a great opportunity to do when I was a student teacher is to take over small groups of students. If you have the opportunity to do that, take it and run with it, because that gives you so much more information of students and how to work with them, not only just in small groups, but also in a larger group. Take every single moment that you can to understand how a classroom would work, as well as the situations of the students in the classroom. Because I can tell you this right now, those students are not going to be any different from the ones that you will have in your own classroom. Growing that empathy for them and being able to build that relationship with them is going to make you a much better teacher. So with that said, please feel free to reach out to me if you want at Techie Turner, TECHYTURNER. You find me on Twitter. I will certainly love to follow you, as well as answer any questions that you might have for me.
Be a person that others look up to. I think that's so important. And his advice about take every moment to understand how a classroom works in different situations with students. Practice growing your empathy and building those relationships. Another common theme that we're hearing. All right, friends, we have 2 more guests. The first one is Todd Nesloney, who I believe he is no longer a principal, but he's working with principals, and he is the author of a few books out there. The one that I read was Kids Deserve It, that he co-authored with Adam Welcome, who was mentioned on part 1 of Advice for Student Teachers. But he's going to share, make sure you meet the principal and be an active learner. Let's listen in on Todd's advice.
Making sure as a student teacher, you go and meet the principal, introduce yourself, let them know who you are, ask if you can have a time to just share with them your passions so that they get to know you in case there's a job opening. But also be actively involved in learning. Don't be on your phone in the back of the room. Learn how to write really good lessons, get involved with the kids, and build those relationships. That's where you're really going to learn a lot. If your managing teacher is not helpful, reach out to other people on the team, but don't miss this opportunity. Student teaching is a huge opportunity to learn and grow and get all your questions out, so that way you're even more successful your first year, because once you're fully in charge, it's a whole other ballgame.
Oh my gosh, Todd is so right. Once you're the sole teacher in charge, it really is another ball game when it comes to teaching. So embrace this opportunity as a learning experience. Up next, we have Valerie Sosa, who's going to share the power of kindness when it comes to student teaching.
If I could say one thing to student teachers, it would be to spread kindness everywhere throughout the building with staff, with students, and everyone. And really just get involved with every piece of it and go to lunch and sit with those new teachers and get to know them and experience all the wonderful things that can happen within a school year. And always look for the positive, even though I know it's so hard to student teach. There'll be difficult days, but then the next day will always be better.
I think that is a beautiful place to end our episode today. Remember, kindness counts and it matters. So spread kindness wherever you are, whether it be smiling at students as they come in the door, giving them a high five, smiling at your coworkers, saying hi, looking up from your device and having conversations with people. Really invest in those relationships, which is a common theme that we've heard throughout this episode. All right, friends, for more tips and takeaways, check out www.sfessage.com/21. There you will find more takeaways. I know, I can't believe it. There's more. You'll find show notes, and you'll also find ways to connect with all of our amazing guests. Shout out to all of our guests today. Thank you so much for your time and giving amazing advice to student teachers. Until next time, friends, you have the EduMagic within you. Hey friends, finding a teaching job is tough, and finding the right teaching job for you can be even harder. But don't worry, AAEE has you covered. Attend the Education Career Fair on Thursday, October 24th, 2019, from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Norfolk Waterside Marriott in Norfolk, Virginia, to find your perfect match. Districts from the local area and across the country are ready with jobs to offer. Whether you're looking for your first teaching job or you just want to see what options are out there, you'll be sure to make great connections that you won't regret. And you may walk away with a copy of the trusty Job Search Handbook for Educators. Candidate registration is always free, so go online, aaee.org/conference now.
There you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfessage.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram @sfessage. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.